Hey everyone, Mark Feldman here. So today I want to do a quick look at an interview that Neil Peart did with George Stromboloupolas on George's talk show. He's a Canadian-based talk show host. Neil did a bunch of interviews with him, but this one I find fascinating because Neil talks a lot about Tom Sawyer and why it's so difficult to play. And there's a lot of insights you can gain into Neil as a person and as a drummer. So let's have a look.
Tom Sawyer, and any of these really. I said they were designed to be played live, and they're also played live many times before they were recorded. So the kind of detail that went into the drum part, for example, I haven't changed barely a note, maybe one fill in Tom Sawyer in 30 years because it's still challenging and satisfying to play just how I made it up, you know? And
Now, this is really interesting because a lot of people don't know this, but Neil composed his drum parts. He didn't just go into the studio and know where all the rhythm hits were and what grooves he wanted to play in what sections and then just play it and improvise. He composed his parts. So he thought in detail about what exact fill should be in what exact section and how he should change the groove slightly from this section to another to build it just this much. And that's the kind of thinking this guy did. And I'm not sure anybody else has done it that way. So I think that's fascinating.
that's nice. There are other songs that I have changed from time to time, or newer ones, actually, I'll deliberately design to be freer in my new improvisational mode. But in that day, we played those songs over and over, and we recorded.
Now you hear that, his new improvisational mode. So there was a time later in Neil's career where he studied with Freddie Gruber and he studied with Peter Erskine, and he realized that there was a piece of drumming that he felt that he needed to develop, which was his improvisational skills, possibly because he had composed everything. So perhaps improvisation wasn't as comfortable for him. And so here's a guy who at that level still decided to go study. So that shows his wisdom and his humbleness.
And a lot of them, though, because they're so hard, what sustains that tension for a performer every night is because you're not sure if you're going to be able to do it. I'm sure that's it. And I mentioned before, Tom Sawyer remains so difficult to play.
All right, so now we're going to hear him talk about why Tom Sawyer is so hard. This is really fascinating. Check it out.
Although it seems a slow tempo, my right hand most of the time is going about as fast as it'll go, and every beat is full force. My feet and hands are playing full force for that whole song. So just to execute it with strength and smoothness, and I mentioned that duality before as something that I've worked all these years in drumming 40 years of wanting to combine those elements of first I wanted technique, and you work hard on technique, and then I wanted accuracy at all strength. Working in the studio with click track sequencers, accuracy was the gold standard. And then I wanted feel, and now I want that combination. When I play these songs now, I know I bring a better feel to them than I did.
Right, so this is fascinating too because people have sometimes criticized Neil for being stiff in his playing. I've heard some really great drummers argue that Neil's feel was suspect, perhaps, in some early records. So listen to Neil. He's talking about, and he's humble enough that he is sort of saying that he's worked on his groove, right? In his own way, he's saying that first it was important for him to have technique, and that was the most important thing, and clarity and technique and strength and consistency, and then feel. And he's acknowledging that at whatever level he's achieved, which we all know was a great level, he still was humble enough to talk about improving and working on his feel. I find that pretty amazing.
And, I have the strength and power and the speed, but so much more subtle control of time. And that's the rewarding thing. Again, we're in the middle of rehearsing these songs, playing them every day right now after all these years. And I still find myself getting inside them in that rhythmic way and feeling them in more subtle and thus, more rewarding ways.
So now listen to that. Subtle control of time. This is, I can't imagine anyone stating it even any more eloquently than that. This is why Neil, this is why Neil was, well, that's an awful place to freeze frame, isn't it?
Was in Toronto. I thought it was.
This is why Neil was so revered. Because not only did he work so hard to become so great, but he kept on working. He was completely honest about where he was and what he still needed to develop. Man, this is a guy, if you want to model yourself after someone, if someone's going to inspire you, why not this guy? I mean, he was intelligent, hardworking, a great drummer, humble, never stopped. Let's give it up for Neil. Anyway, I hope you found this helpful. And if so, please subscribe. And I'll see you next time.